I will hand it over to you, Sharon. Sharon works for the Cats Institute for Women's Health, and she was on the Discovery Channel, which we were just talking about, which I was excited about, which I love. Um, anyway, I'll hand it over to you, Sharon. Welcome. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. So I just wanted to thank you, Janine, and all the Long Beach Library members for allowing me to speak. Again, as I mentioned, this talk is for you, so we'll leave some time for you to ask some questions. And, you know, again, we're starting the new year with a little bit of turbulence, and a lot of my talks in the beginning of the year are, you know, new year, new you. A lot of them have to do with the current diet trends. But today, as my title does, my credentials are registered dietitian. I am the anti-diet dietitian. A little bit of my background. Prior to studying nutrition at New York University in Manhattan, I was a personal trainer. So a lot of my days were in the gym, and I was working with women at Lucille Roberts, trying to get them to manage their weight, manage their stress. I was a tough trainer, being a former athlete myself, and I realized there was a little gap between what was happening on the gym floors with the exercises we were doing, and something else was happening when they were not with me, usually at home. They were doing a lot of cardio exercise. We were meeting about 3 times a week, but they weren't getting to their weight loss goals. And a lot of that has to do with diet. So again, a part of why I went into this field of nutrition and dietetics is because I truly believe that food is medicine. I've been working prior to joining the new CATS team for women's health. I was a registered dietitian and the program director at Lenox Hill's weight loss surgery program. So I have witnessed the transformations that in people's lives just through eating differently and taking charge of your health. So we're going to show you a few tips of what I've gathered through my experience of working with my patients. So, oh, no, this is the talk. All right, I just want to be able to share my screen with you. Okay, do you guys see the slides here? Just give me a nod. Okay, great. So as I mentioned, my title is the Anti-Diet Approach to Living Your Best. And I wanted to start my talk with a little riddle. You know, I know we don't have polls, but maybe you guys can help just even with your numbers, with your fingers. But I wanted to ask you a question. We're going to throw a little riddle out there, because the energy is a little bit different when I'm not standing in front of you with my hands all in the air. So we're going to try to make this as interactive as possible just to keep you guys engaged. So we have 3 frogs on a log, okay? 2 frogs decide to jump off. How many frogs are left on the log? So you can put your fingers up because I can see some of you guys. Do we have 3 frogs left on the log, 2 frogs left on the log, or 1? And again, I'll ask that question again. We have 3 frogs on the log. 2 decide to jump off. How many are left on the log? Okay, so some of you are saying 3, some of you are saying 1. When I first heard this, my answer was also 1, because 3 minus 2 equals 1. But the key word is decide. And sometimes we decide to do something, but we don't actually take charge and act on it. Okay. And hopefully my talk today is going to empower you to make better choices, because again, on January 1st, all of us decide that we're going to be better, and we're going to decide to check off all these New Year's resolutions, but it's applying it that is usually the challenge. And again, I'm not sure if many of you listen to the news, but do you know how much weight an average American gains during the time from Thanksgiving to New Year's? Is it 4 pounds? Is it 7 pounds? I'm sorry, it looks like 1 pound is missing, or 5 pounds. All right, looks like most of you have been reading the news, and that is correct. It is 5 pounds. So this is something that we really need to take charge of. And hopefully, again, if we can maintain our weight and not gain, that's already a step forward. All right. And again, a few things to think about as I go through my talk. I'd like you to just keep these in the back of your mind and try to challenge you. What is your food IQ? I'm not sure if you've met with doctors or dietitians or nurses in the past who've tried to give you some diet tips. And just a few questions that you should, think about. Do you eat 3 vegetables or fruits a day? Do you include rice, farro, oats, millet, whole grains, whole wheat bread into your diet? Do you consume nuts at least 4 times a week? Do you have fish 2 to 3 times a week? Do you chew your food 30 times before swallowing? Again, a lot of us are in a rush, or we just, put the food in, inhale it, chew it twice and swallow. And that can cause a lot of gastric reflux. So your eating behavior is very important. Do you actually go out of your way to avoid packaged foods with limited ingredients? Many of us are just eating processed foods. We don't even know what ingredients are in there. Do you avoid foods with added sugar? When you're stressed, do you wait until the feeling has passed before you make this impulsive decision that I need to have those cookies or I crave that slice of cake? Do you make it a point throughout the day? Do you make it a point to take your time to eat despite feeling tired or busy? Again, a lot of us, when we were working in offices, we can go all day without eating and then realize, oh my God, I missed lunch. So do you actually take the time to realize that you need to cut time out of the day to fuel your body? Do you eat breakfast within 2 hours of waking up? Do you drink 6 cups of water a day? Do you limit your intake of sweetened beverages? And sweetened beverages include juice. And I'm not talking only about, again, that 100% all natural juice, because 100% all natural juice still has sugar in it. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about that. And do you exercise? Are you moving? And again, I'm not speaking about running in a marathon, but at least keeping your body in motion, whether it's through Reiki, whether it's yoga, Pilates, or some type of 20-minute walk throughout the day. So keep these in mind, because these are some of the things that we want to work towards. And again, I said I'm not too fond of the word diet. I'm sure many of you guys have tried diets in the past. I always thought diet had a very derogatory connotation to it. You see the DIE in there. It's depriving yourself. And I wanted to talk more about the difference between a diet and a healthy lifestyle. So I found this definition somewhere online, and I really wanted to dive deeper into this meaning. So when we think of a diet, which most of you may have tried through Weight Watchers, Jenny Craig, Nutrisystem, a lot of those commercial plans, it's managing food intake and exercise over a period of time to lose weight. Okay, versus a healthy lifestyle where we're actually incorporating positive choices into everyday routines to increase the quality of life by looking and feeling better. Now, I don't know about you guys, but when I see that diet, it just turns me off. It makes it difficult. It looks like it's short term. It's only emphasizing weight. It's managing something, which sounds a little burdensome to me. It's focusing on the food and the exercise portion, okay? And it's over a period of time, so it's short term. But then when we look at healthy lifestyle and we break down that definition, it's incorporating positive. So already when I see that POS, I'm excited. It's going to put me in this energetic mode. I feel optimistic about these results. Incorporating means it includes my participation. Okay, it involves me doing something. Everyday routine. So again, it's not short term, it's for life. And to increase my quality of life. Okay. So again, we're looking not just at the weight, we're looking at feeling and looking better. So a lot of what we're going to talk about is hoping to get you to follow a healthy lifestyle. I have always said in my practice, a lot of my patients have come to me and they're like, Sharon, I really want to lose weight. And I always stop them right there and I say, if you're here to lose weight, I am not the person you want to work with, because I'm not here to have you lose weight. I'm here to have you keep it off. Okay. So losing weight and keeping it off are two different things. And if you see on my screen, I can't talk about eating well if we're not talking about wellness. And I'm sorry, I just want to keep you guys there. Okay, we have to talk about wellness. And again, I'm very grateful to be working for a health system that really emphasizes the word well. We went from rebranding of North Shore LIJ to Northwell. We are looking in we're looking up north. We are really emphasizing being well, and well encompasses 6 pillars. So again, I always, when I'm teaching a class, I always tell my patients, I'm like, take these notes, okay? So if we want to be well, we need to have 6 pillars in balance. And that includes our physical health, our occupational health, our spiritual health, our social health, our psychological health, and our intellectual health. And what does that mean exactly? Well, physically, again, we want to lose weight. We want to keep our blood pressure down. We want to keep our blood sugars down. We want to avoid taking any form of medication. Occupationally, we need to have a work-life balance. If we're working 14 hours a day and only sleeping 4 hours a day, that's definitely not healthy. Spiritually, we want to have an optimistic attitude. We want to be positive in the way we look at things. If you're the type of person who's always looking at the glass half empty and not half full, it's going to be you're already putting an obstacle in front of you in order to achieve your goals. Socially, we need to have healthy relationships with our spouse, our partners, our coworkers, our siblings, our family members, our friends. Do we have that social connection with people? Psychologically, if we are emotionally unstable, if we are depressed, we really need to hone in on that. And intellectually, knowledge is power. Okay, I already can see if you're you're participating in this talk, you're active in the Long Beach library, you are always looking to immerse yourself in knowledge through reading books and programs. So these are the pillars that we really need to have in balance for the weight loss goals or your health goals to fall into place. So I can never talk about what you eat if I'm not expanding this story of you through the other pillars. And a few of the diet trends that I want to review today, just to go over to really demystify what works, what doesn't work, are the keto diet, the paleo diet, a vegetarian diet, the Mediterranean, raw, low carb. I'm sure many of you guys have heard these before. The Atkins diet, Weight Watchers, South Beach, all of these, the DASH diet or you may be more familiar with. And what many of you guys know, if you've tried a diet in the past, is you start something, you restrict yourself from eating a large, diverse profile of foods. You start craving the foods that you are not allowed to have, or the forbidden foods or the bad foods. You finally give in because there's only so long you can take from not enjoying the foods you have always been tending to. Then you feel guilty because you caved in, and then a week goes by and you're ready to start that diet again. So that's that vicious cycle that we want to stop. And I have been, I admit, I confess that part of why I feel I can really resonate this message to my patients or the community members is because I've tried all the diets in the past and I know how it feels, and it's depressing. So how do we stop this cycle and how do we get into healthy habits? And we're going to go over that in just a minute. But just to give you a little bit of the typical diets that currently exist. Again, I think we don't, Weight Watchers is still there, and but in the media, we're starting to hear more of the ketogenic diet. So what is the ketogenic diet? It is a very low carbohydrate diet. Some of you may also know this as the Atkins diet. You are restricting carbohydrates, as you're having as little as about 30 grams of carbohydrates a day. And 30 grams of carbohydrates is very little. An apple is 30 grams of carbohydrates. So if you're on the ketogenic diet, you are significantly reducing any type of grains, rice, bread, even fruits. And what happens is when we take out carbohydrates from our diet, the body is forced to use fat as fuel instead of carbs. Okay, so that's what causes rapid weight loss. The problem with this is it's very difficult to follow for the long term. I mean, I know that if I don't have carbs in my diet, I feel very fatigued. I can't concentrate. You know, your brain uses carbohydrates for fuel. So if we're on a very low carbohydrate diet, we're not going to feel our best. And fruits and vegetables contain fiber, and fiber is a type of carbohydrate. And as most of you may know, carbohydrates are what keep our gut clean and help us with our bowel function. So if you are on a ketogenic diet, you're very likely to experience constipation. The next diet trend that seems to be very popular these days is called the Paleo diet, also known as the caveman diet. And this plan of eating restricts processed foods. Okay, processed foods are man-made. We didn't have them during our hunter and gatherer days, and we were limited to eat whatever grew on earth and whatever we were hunting. So that includes lots of wild green vegetables, tart fruits, not tropical fruits. So, you know, when you think of pineapple and all of the melons, those weren't available during this time. During a paleo diet, you're eating a lot of nuts and seeds and wild meat and coconut oil and olive oil. So again, lots of plants, lots of foods that come from nature. And what you're avoiding is, again, anything that's man-made. So bread is man-made, it's processed. Any seed oils are man-made, they're processed. Cheese, dairy is man-made. Although they come from natural sources, you started to adulterate it, so it doesn't have that same whole food effect. So the paleo diet does limit a lot of these high sugars, high carbohydrates. So similar to the keto diet, you're limiting carbs, but you're getting a lot of fiber from plant-based foods and fruits that you wouldn't be getting on the keto. There's a lot of buzz around intermittent fasting, and fasting has been going on throughout history. A lot of religious traditions require fasting at certain parts of the day. And there's a few different types of fasts. Basically, you are limiting eating for a certain amount of time. And this helps the body kind of reset. It gives it a rest so it's not digesting and working all the time. And a few different ways that we do this is through the 5-2, where you're eating 5 days in the week and almost fasting 2 days of the week. So you're on now that doesn't mean you're not eating at all, okay? It means that you're on a very, very low calorie diet of 500 calories, which is literally 2 slices of bread and a slice of cheese, okay? A grilled cheese sandwich is about 500 calories. Another way that you can do this is through a 24-hour fast where you don't eat anything at all for 24 hours, and you do that 1 to 3 days in the 7-day week. Or there's time restricted eating where you are avoiding to eat within 12 hours of the day or 16 hours of the day, and allowing yourself to eat the rest of the day. And again, the problem with intermittent fasting, again, you can see some people who are very supportive of it, and some other medical doctors who say it's not the best. I can tell you my experience as a dietitian working with people who've struggled with some form of disordered eating, or have a sweet tooth and are allowing themselves to eat all of those sugars and sweets that they enjoy during the time of their eating, and then fasting the rest of the day. This will not work for you. So there's a right way to do intermittent fasting, and there's a wrong way to do intermittent fasting. And again, I don't think it's something that we could do for the long term. But again, as the positives to following this type of eating plan is that it improves your body's utilization of fat, so it helps you burn fat. I've seen improvements in people who are insulin resistant. This helps kind of reset the body, and it helps your body use the fat as fuel. So similar to the keto diet. I truly believe if we take a step back and look at the benefits of intermittent fasting, if we eat supper at 7 p.m. and we eat breakfast at 7 a.m., we're already fasting. That's what break fast is. But because we live in a world where so many of us are kind of eating on the go and snacking late at night and eating, more in front of the television, we're not ceasing our meal at 7 p.m. like we used to. Right now, it's always time to eat. When we're watching commercials on television that have advertisements of all these frozen meals and delicious foods and baked items, it's very enticing to be watching TV and then wanting to go to the refrigerator or the freezer to grab something to eat just because it's time to relax. So I believe that if you truly stop dinner at a certain time and start your breakfast at a certain time, you're naturally creating that fast. Veganism and vegetarianism has become very popular. There's a lot of documentaries out there that are promoting this type of eating plan. And veganism is a little bit more of a lifestyle than it is so much of a diet. Most people who follow a vegan life are conscious of the environment, of animal ethics and treatment, and want to stay away from hormones and pesticides, and they don't wear leather or anything that has to do with slaughtering animals. Vegans are very limited to grains, fruits, and vegetables. Vegetarians have a little bit more flexibility. Vegetarians, actually, some of them include fish or dairy products, okay? But that's something, again, you don't eat anything from an animal in a vegan diet. And, again, there's pros and cons to this because you are, you're limiting a lot of your saturated fats from animal products. However, when you take out a lot of animals and certain, fish from your diet, you're also limiting yourself to vitamin D, zinc, B12. So it's really important that you work with a medical professional to ensure that you're getting the proper supplements from vitamins to help you while you're following this type of diet. And my favorite, my personal favorite that has gotten a lot of buzz, and I'm sure if you guys read the New York Times, we're always talking about the benefits of a Mediterranean diet. A Mediterranean diet, to me, and if you speak to a lot of health professionals and cardiologists, will probably support this type of eating style because it encourages lots of fruits and vegetables, whole grains, omega-3 essential fatty acids from fatty fish like salmon and olive oil. They're limiting their meat and their cheese and processed foods. And hopefully this will help lower heart disease and will increase mood and boost energy. And, it's also important to understand when, I don't know if any of you have had the pleasure of traveling to most of the Greek islands or in Italy, they take a lot of passion when eating. It's a time to bring people together. They eat very slow. They're involved in the cooking and the preparation of their meals. They can enjoy a glass of wine. And these areas of the world are also known as the blue zones. And the blue zones have been known for being the happiest people alive. So I think we need to take a look at what people are doing in these blue zones and try and follow their lifestyle trends in order for us to live our happiest and healthiest lives. So those are the diets that I wanted to review that hopefully can shed light into the pros and cons and what's, the benefits of and maybe limitations of them. But you always will hear this word calories, okay? And most diets or any eating plan that you go on is going to be changing the amount of calories that you take in. And just, for layman's terms, calories are basically units of energy. And we need energy. We need energy to walk, think, move, breathe, operate. If I didn't have breakfast this morning, it would be very difficult for me to perform for you today. If you didn't have breakfast today, it's going to be difficult for you to even process the information and the data that I'm giving you. So we need calories, but not all calories are created equal. So I say, think of your body as a car. And what does a car use to operate? Gasoline. Okay. And if the car is empty, it is not going to function. So we need to fuel it with the gas, and that's what food is for us. However, if we fill up an empty car tank with water, is it going to move? No, because water is not the type of fuel that the car needs. It's the gasoline. So same thing happens with food. A lot of us are eating, a lot of us are putting calories in our body, but they're not the right calories. They need to be macronutrient dense. We want these calories to keep us full. We want these calories to give us the vitamins and the nutrients that our body needs. So a lot of what we're going to be talking about is not so much of how much we eat, but what exactly are we eating? So here in this image, you have 2,000 calories in a diet. Okay, we probably need about 1,500 to 2,000. So it's important to know how many calories you need, because if you eat more calories than your body needs, you're going to store it as fat. And where are our calories coming from? Our calories need to come from whole food. So if you see on the right side in the green, we have 2,000 calories, and there's a lot of volume. You've got the strawberries, you've got the salmon, asparagus, eggs, some green juices. And then you look at the left and you have highly processed foods in smaller volumes and smaller portions. So it's really important to understand that nutrient dense foods give us that lasting energy that we're looking for. They keep us satisfied. They keep us full. They help boost our immune system. The other form of calories that are highly processed are going to deplete us of energy. We're constantly going to be hungry. I don't know about you, but if you've ever tried a diet before, sometimes you're left thinking, when is the next time to eat? Because what you ate didn't fill you up. They definitely lower our immune system. So again, we're speaking so much about COVID and the vaccines and wearing masks and washing our hands, but we're not talking about boosting our immune system from eating healthy foods that provide us with the vitamin D and the zinc that our body needs to fight off infections. So when we talk about wearing a mask, I'm all about creating a healthy body to fight any virus or any ailment. And this is a cute cartoon. I always like to add things to my talks. You have a doctor sitting with his patient, and she says, what's the wrong with empty calories? If they're empty, that means there's nothing bad in them. But again, yes, I never like to label anything good or bad, but unfortunately, empty calories are empty because they're void of nutrition. So it's not something we want to have our whole house stocked up with. If you open up your cupboards and you've got lots of boxes of cereal and boxes of crackers and packaged food, and your refrigerator's empty, we need to work on that. We need to do a kitchen cleanup. And that also goes back when I'm talking to people about, I've done supermarket tours. It's very important to shop the perimeter of the supermarket, because that's where all the produce is. That's where the fruits, the vegetables, anything that needs to be refrigerated is what you need to bring into your home. If you're walking in the middle of the aisles, those are foods that could be sitting on the shelf for years with no expiration date and not something that you want to put in your body. Half the time, we can't even read the ingredients that are in those labels. So keep that in mind when you're doing your next supermarket, your supermarket run, or if you're ordering any food in the future. And I just wanted to give you some, again, information. What are protein? What are carbs? What are fats? We've been speaking about it in the diets, but what are they really? Why do we need protein in our diet? Protein is very important because it helps build muscle. It helps with wound healing. It helps with our hair and our skin and our nail growth. It takes longer to be broken down. Okay, there's a longer digestive process. So if it takes longer to be broken down, that means it keeps you full longer. So you're less likely to overeat later on in the day. Fats are very important to us, but there's a difference between saturated fats and unsaturated fats. So we want to include the unsaturated sources in our diet, and I'll go over what that means in a little bit. But why do we need fats in our diet? I mean, we've been taught that fat is the villain. Back in the early 1990s, when Snackwells came out and everything was fat-free and reduced fat, our obesity numbers started to even rise. So I don't think fat is really the problem. I think it's mostly the processed carbohydrates and simple sugars that we eat. But why do we need fat in our diet? It helps absorb vitamins and minerals. So just a little piece of information: if you take vitamin D, if you take vitamin A, if you take vitamin E or vitamin K, those are fat soluble vitamins. They should not be taken on an empty stomach. They need to be consumed with a fat. Okay, otherwise they're not going to be absorbed well. We need fat because, again, it gives us long-lasting energy. In my talk earlier, you heard me say when we take out carbs, our body starts to use fat as fuel. So it's another form of fuel. Fat helps cushion our organs and our tissues. So we need that as protection. And it also is a precursor to hormone production. So it helps with all these chemical and enzymatic reactivity in our body. Carbohydrates are also necessary, but we are probably taking in the wrong types of carbohydrates. We need carbohydrates because it gives us that quick fuel. We find carbohydrates also contain fiber, but again, we're talking about the whole grains, the complex carbs, and I'll go over that in the next slide. Fiber helps us clean out our gut. It helps lower our cholesterol. And as I mentioned about protein, carbs also take longer to be digested, so they keep you full longer, so you're less likely to, again, overeat. And this is a little tree to help you understand, well, what are fats? You have your saturated, your unsaturated varieties. You have your carbohydrates, the simple and the complex, and then you have your protein sources. I think it's really important that you try to include in your diet the unsaturated fats, the complex carbs, and a good source of protein. And if you're ever confused, my little rule of thumb, when you're looking at a food package and you want to know, is this a simple or a complex carb? Try to keep your sugars of anything you eat per item less than 10 grams per serving. So if you're looking for a cereal and you want to know, well, is this on that green light list that the dietitians would approve? Try to keep your sugars less than 10 and your fiber greater than 3. Okay, there's a lot of cereals out there that advertise themselves as being heart healthy, but they don't really fit these numbers. And it really confuses the consumer. And that's really what dietitians are here for, to help guide you. Because if I wasn't studying this for as long as I was, I would also feel a little lost when it comes to what am I supposed to eat? And another fun fact I like to throw in my talks is protein comes from the Greek word primary, or most important. And again, we are not getting enough protein because we've taken protein out of our diet and we've included a lot of processed carbohydrates in. So we really want to make sure we're getting adequate sources of protein. And this is a little plate to show you what it should look like. Again, you see dominant on the protein side, dominant on the vegetable side, getting a good amount of the high fiber complex carbohydrates or starches, and fats, again, from the unsaturated sources. And what does that look like? Again, I'm giving you all these fundamentals, but what does this translate to when it comes to real eating? Protein and fiber are your go-to for any meal. Okay, as we mentioned, protein and fiber take longer to be digested. They keep you full longer. So a great breakfast idea is a spinach omelet. You know, the spinach has the fiber, the omelet, the eggs are the protein. There are protein bars out there if you're someone who's, on the go. I always like to say food first, okay? But if you do need something that's quick, there are some protein bars that are high fiber out there. You can make your own protein shake. I'll share with you a nice recipe at the end of my talk. Greek yogurt is a great source of protein with high fiber berries. Cottage cheese is a great protein source with, again, fruit is fiber. Apples or bananas with peanut butter or almond butter or cashew butter. Ezekiel toast is an alternative to white bread or whole wheat bread. It's made from seeds and nuts, and it has more fiber in it and is less processed than the refined versions of bread. And of course, oatmeal is a great source of fiber because, again, it hasn't been broken down. And you can add some peanut butter to an oatmeal, or you can add some berries to the oatmeal. Cinnamon, cocoa powder are definitely my go-tos to add. And for lunch and dinner, it's going to be the same type of breakdown. You want meat, fish, chicken. Again, we said protein is the most important source of nutrition with a vegetable. So what is the best diet? One that works for you. Okay, I can tell you that in my practice of 15 years, as young as I look, I don't have black and white dittos or handouts that I give to my patients, because what works for person A will not work for person B. And I've even had conversations with a bunch of my friends who are like, Sharon, I want to lose 15 pounds, put me on a diet. And then my other friends will say the same thing. And the way I'm counseling one is very different than the way I'm counseling another, because someone may have GI issues. Someone may have elevated blood pressure. Someone may have a food allergy. Someone might have a food preference where they actually enjoy chocolate. So how do we bring in chocolate into that balanced diet? So there is no one size fits all. So you got to find out what works for you. What makes you feel good? And a lot of the times we know that answer. Okay. A lot of times we may have a heavy meal and realize, ooh, my stomach doesn't feel so good. I see a little bit of inflammation. My ring and jewelry is not fitting the same way. What was it that I ate that may have created this sensation? Okay. So we need to become more involved. I don't have all the answers for everyone, but I can help through dialogue, through exploring how you feel and what you like, and seeing what worked for you in the past to help create a plan that works best for you in the future. We definitely want to balance whole foods. We want to do something that's sustainable for the long term. So I call that the 80-20 rule. Okay. I have a sweet tooth. If anyone told me in order for me to lose weight or to take charge of my health, I need to eliminate ice cream altogether, that would make me feel very, I would not want to follow that diet. Okay. It already tunes me off with that practitioner, and I'm going to find something else. So we need to find the 80-20 rule, where that ice cream or that treat that you enjoy falls in 20% of the time, and 80% you're rocking that meal plan that includes everything that we've just discussed. You need to respect your body. Respect your body. If you do not respect yourself, if you do not love yourself, this will never work. And so many times I get excuses from people telling me that they need to take care of their children, or they need to take care of their elders, or they need to take care of everybody else around them. And I say, if you can't take care of yourself, it is going to be very difficult for you to be that go-to for your family members. Okay. It's not a matter of being selfish. but it's actually giving you power over your well-being. We need to shift the way our minds think, okay? Think about how the foods are affecting you. Um, a lot of the times I hear people saying, I'm in the mood for pizza, or I'm in the mood for Chinese food. Food and mood are two totally different things, okay? So if we're always eating based on our moods, we're probably never going to make good choices. So try to really take a step back and ask yourself, what is my body needing? What is my body craving? If you went 6 hours without eating, it's time for protein and fiber. It's time for that nutrient dense food, okay? Grabbing a slice of pizza or grabbing a grilled cheese sandwich that has no fiber and very little protein is probably not going to be the best choice. And avoid having foods in open containers or clear containers. When we see food, it's going to trigger us to want to eat. So try and keep everything out in the open and put them up in shelves where they're not visible. And here are some ideas, instead of a cornflakes, because cornflakes has no fiber at all. I like to encourage oatmeal, which has higher fiber with berries and nuts and seeds. Instead of a bagel is the equivalent of 4 to 5 slices of bread. Okay, you might want to switch. That's what makes it so heavy. And even if you go into these bagel shops that have the flagels or the flat bagels, they're just compressed. Now they're just wider. Okay, so they still are very dense in flour and sugar. So it'd probably be better to do a sprouted grain bread and put some peanut butter, avocado, or hard-boiled eggs on there as your source of protein. Instead of wraps with cheese and rice, you may want to do bowls and platters that have more vegetables in them. If you're going to a steakhouse, skimp the fries and the garlic bread and choose more of the green veggies as your side. And guys, don't be shy to ask waiters to modify the menu based on your taste preferences or based on your dietary preferences or based on your religious preferences. I sometimes come across patients who always tell me like, oh, well, I'm too embarrassed to ask the waiter to change or modify anything on the menu. And I'm like, this is your body and you can ask for whatever you want as long as it's available. So it doesn't hurt to ask. Okay. I think sometimes we need to lead. And when restaurants and waiters and anyone in the food service industry see what we demand, supply will increase. Okay, they want to know that this is what we're asking for. And I've definitely seen a shift in the airports and in a lot of restaurants with healthier options. So we're getting there. In the Chinese takeout, you might want to avoid the heavy, saucy, carb-loaded dishes like lo mein, rice, egg rolls, beef, and try more of the steamed dishes with the vegetables and the sauce on the side. You can still put the sauce on to give it a flavor. You just don't want the dish doused in that heavy sauce. And some recipe swaps, instead of using noodles, zucchini noodles, spaghetti squash, there's bean pastas out there. Instead of doing rice, you can replace with riced cauliflower. Instead of using wheat flour, there's almond flour, coconut flour, cassava flour. These are more fiber-rich flours that you can use in baking or cooking. Crackers, again, flaxseed crackers. There's some bean snacks out there. I'm sure some of you have seen like dried chickpeas if you have that salty craving that you're looking to give into. And instead of using wraps, a lot of people think wraps are healthier for you, but they're almost the same amount of calories as 3 slices of bread. And because they're so gummy, they have a lot of processed chemicals in there to make it taste good or increase its shelf life. So you can always use green vegetables as your wrap. And if you're baking, dates, applesauce, bananas are all replacements for sugar. If you're diabetic and you really want to keep your sugar low, stevia is a natural alternative that doesn't cause that spike in your glucose levels. And if you're limiting fat in your diet, you may want to choose aquafaba, which is basically chickpea juice. That can also moisten up the food, the baked goods that you're baking with. Avocado is a great replacer for fat. Applesauce adds a little bit of moisture to any baking dish. Beans. One of my favorites is making black bean brownies. So instead of using flour to make brownies, I just use a can of black beans. Pumpkin or butternut squash are also great ways to give texture to your baked goods. Shredded zucchini can also add a little bit of moisture to any muffins or breads. Bananas, and there's silken tofu or tofuti can also replace any fat in your recipes. And here we have, again, I promised you I would share a nice super green shake that's significantly high in vitamins and minerals and fiber and low in sugar, and it's all whole food. So instead of doing the Ensure or any of these pre-made protein shakes, here you've got just a wham of all nutrients under the sun. So you just put this under a blender. And again, just to close, a few healthy tips. You want to start the day with a nutritious breakfast. You want to become a mindful eater. Fill up on vegetables, focus on protein, and eat your starch at the end of the meal. That is my little tip for my patients. I always say, eat the vegetables first, then the protein, then the starch. Get adequate sleep. Make sure you're getting in 7 to 8 hours. Be active. Again, anything that gets your heart rate going, that also makes you feel good, and take the time out of the day to meditate. I think we really need to become more in tune with our bodies and how we're feeling rather than just kind of pushing ourselves throughout the day. And all of these are creating new habits. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes 37 days to break a habit and create a new one. So make this your why, okay? None of anything that I spoke about is going to matter until you figure out why you're doing it. And a lot of the times when people come to me, they say, Sharon, I need to lower my cholesterol. That's my why. Sharon, I want to be able to sleep better. That's my why. Sharon, I have a wedding to go to and I just want to take charge of my health. I just don't like the way I feel. I want to be a better version of me. And what we do is we create strategies to help you do that. We produce habits, and then we build on these rituals. Because again, this is not something that happens overnight. And like anything else in life, you go to your hairdresser or your nail salon on a routine basis. You should use any health professional as your new coach to coach you through creating this new life. So with that being said, I do want to conclude and leave you with my email address, our phone number to the CATS Institute if you'd like to be guided to meet with any of our health professionals. And Janine, take the floor. And if there's any other questions, I'd be happy to answer.